title of my talk today is Let Go, Let God. And I know that we say that often. What does it really mean? And even if I know what it means, how do I do it? Well, to me, it's all about belief. Do I really believe that with God all things are possible? Or do I listen to those voices in my head that sometimes tell me I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't really believe enough? As my little God asked in that song, what if now? What if now I finally let my spirit sing? What if now? What if now everything would be this perfect place in me? Well, what if now? What if now you took charge of your life? What if now you know, you believe, you accept that thoughts are things, and that you are as you believe? What if now you choose to believe that all things are possible? You choose that. What if now you allow only positive thoughts into your mind? What if now you just let go and let God? Think of the possibilities. Just hold on to that a moment. Because in truth, with God, all things are possible. We hear that all the time. We say it all the time. But do we really believe it? Well, I'm pretty much living proof of that, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But later on in the song, you're going to hear a song by Olivia Newton-John, and I'll tell you a little more about that. But the name of her song is called Let Go and Let God. And I just want to share a few words of the song, and you'll understand why later. But she says, let the signs remind you to surrender and to let go and let God. Now, I love that song, but there's this word, surrender. And I hear that word and I go, I don't know about you, but it brings up all kinds of negative feelings for me. It sounds to me like I'm giving up. And in fact, Merriam-Webster defines surrender as to give something over to the control or possession of another, usually under duress, which to me means I'm forced to do it, or to cease resisting. And some common synonyms are abandon, relinquish, resign, waive, and yield. And all these words kind of mean to give up completely. It implies giving up after you've struggled to retain something, or you're resisting something. Well, I think when we surrender, we do give up, but not traditionally in the way that we think about it. Surrender is a choice. It's not so much giving in, but it's choosing to let go, to stop fighting and accept things as they are. And we've often heard, or you've even heard me say it, probably some of you say it is what it is. We can either continue to fight what is, in which case, guess what? We usually get more of it, or we can change the way we look at it. Now, many of you know that this last year has been an interesting year for me. On July 7th of last year, that's to say it lightly, July 7th of last year, I was in a life-changing automobile accident. And I don't often refer to it as an accident, I call it an incident. Because for me in life, I don't really believe in accidents. I'm not saying that I brought that on myself, but I don't think it was an accident. It has brought me to the place that I am today. I wouldn't be right here standing in front of you talking if it hadn't been for that. I can only say, you may have some emotion here, because I so feel there were so many things that brought me through, but I'm so blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be walking, I'm blessed to be breathing, I'm blessed to be alive. And I give thanks for that. Sometimes I forget, and I'd like to say thanks every day for it, but I'm human. sometimes in the busyness of my life, I forget to just sit down and take a moment and thank God. And we'll probably talk a little bit about that later. But as a result of that, I had a broken pelvis in the front and a broken pelvis in the back, a broken arm, lactic zone crushed, but along several other injuries, those were just probably the most prevalent. And I had a tube. It was a lovely tube that went from this side of my pelvis to the other side that was holding it together. And as a result of that, well, the other thing is they didn't set my arm because there wasn't any way that they could. So they didn't do anything to the back of my pelvis because there were some issues there. So the doctors were hoping that the arm would heal, and they were hoping that the back of the pelvis would heal. As a result of that, I was unable to put any weight on my legs, and I was unable to use my left arm at all. I was in a sling like this for quite a while. And I didn't realize till much later, and after several visits to my orthopedic surgeon, that they really did not expect me to walk again. We'll talk about that later too. Through all of this, I did accept my situation, and I knew that I could not change my physical circumstances. I also knew that I was blessed to be alive. And I knew that I was going to face many challenges, but I knew without a doubt that I was going to be okay. I knew that I was going to walk. I knew that I was going to be independent. I knew that I was going to be able to walk. I knew that I was going to be able to travel. I never had a doubt in my mind. Never once did it enter my mind. I'm laying there in that bed. I can't do anything. I am totally dependent on everyone for everything. Never entered my mind. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do. I knew it was all going to be okay. And at this point, I had a choice. I could have just stayed there in bed and wallowed in self-pity and said, well, poor is me, why does this have to happen? I'm a good person, I pray, I believe in God. That's not me. And I didn't do that. I knew there was a better way. So I prayed. I meditated. I did pray to be healed. I prayed to know that there was one and that I was one without one. I prayed to have that spiritual connection. And somehow, with that belief, I just gave it up to God. Now, I'd like to tell you that everything was hunky-dory after that, and that I didn't have, I just smiled and laughed all the time. Well, I am only human. And there were many days that I would get very frustrated because I couldn't do something. And I would just get so upset with myself that I wasn't able to do it. And I'd start to go down that lovely rabbit hole that I'm pretty sure you all know about, where there's this lovely downward spiral. But I got to the point where I knew so strongly that I would just say, God, I can't do this on my own. I'm giving it up to you. And there would be this little voice that would come and go, go ahead, girl, I've got this. And God did have it. And it was the simple little things. I would look at something from my bed, and I'd want something on my night table. Now, I could have called the aide, and she could have come and gotten it. But now I'm going to do this by myself. And by this time, I had some cute little tools. I had a reacher that would help me reach for things. I had a grabber that I could grab my foot with and do stuff like that. And I'd sit there for a long time. And when I could scoot, I couldn't put any weight on my legs or on my arm. I could scoot around in bed, so I was pretty good at scooting. And so I could, let's see, if I scoot over this way, and I grab the reacher, and I do this, I can get it. You know, it might have taken me an hour, or it would have taken 5 minutes to call the 8.5 rover, but that was okay. What was I going to do? I got to be able to do that day anyway, and I did. And one of the best things that happened was I couldn't move my left leg, and I had this little tool that I could grab the foot and pull my foot up, and that's how I could lift my foot. And I mean, I lift my foot to change my position or do something of that sort. And I would just keep, before I get the grabber, I'd sit through, I can do this, I can move my foot, I can move my foot. And finally one day, I moved my foot all by myself. Now, granted, probably wouldn't move like that far, but I moved my foot. That was, to me, one of the miracles, and it was a really good indication that, yes, God's listening. It was just that sign that God was right there, right where I was. And so the decision to let go and to surrender was an easy one for me because I had so many indications that God was listening. And I think sometimes when we pray for things, or when we do get to that point where we do just let it go, we get impatient because we're humans, right? I want it now, I want it all. And sometimes God just gives us little steps. And I think those little steps, at least for me, have to be very, very grateful for because it's an indication that, yes, you can do this. And I always go back to, or I remember I had a practitioner who told me, which the Raymond Charles Barber says, God doesn't give us things, He gives us ideas. And I think of that often because when I say let go, let God, it doesn't mean that God's going to come out here and magically do stuff for you. Now, sometimes He does. I mean, sometimes you pray and boom, there it happens. And sometimes it just doesn't magically appear. But often, God gives you ideas. Like if you ask Him for $1 million or whatever it is you do, He may show you ways to do that. And who knows, sometimes you win the lottery. I'm not really sure what the difference is there, but you have to be ready for those little things. So, I will go forward. I have so many things to tell you, and I don't want to go over time here, but I knew at some point they would take this lovely tube out that was in my pelvis, and I knew that was all going to be great. And I knew that I was going to walk again. And so when I did go to the hospital and they took it out, and I came back, to the rehab center, and the first thing I did, of course, was I got to be in a wheelchair, and I got to use my feet to propel me around. And that was pretty cool because I hadn't been able to do that before. I still had issues because I couldn't. I was in a wheelchair, moving myself with one arm because I couldn't use this arm to move the chair, so I would go around in circles. But here again, I'm saying, okay, I want to get from here to the sink by myself in the wheelchair. So I'm going, okay, God, God might talk about. I know there's a way to do this. And so I finally figured out somehow or other, if I did this, if I held on to this side of the bed and moved like this way, I could kind of finally do, I did it. It wasn't easy, but it's like, okay, God gave me this idea about how to do it, and there it went. And I was able to do it, and gradually I was able to do things like that. But finally, it wasn't very long before the PT came in, and I got to stand up. And it was so cool, because I got to stand up. And then he brings in, because I couldn't have a real walker, he brings in what they call a hemi walker that I'm going to use with his hand. And so I start walking. And he says, You don't need that. Let me bring you the other. So then I get this little cane with feet. He looks at me, walk across it. You don't need that either. And he brings me a cane. I went from being 2.5 months in bed to that wheelchair for a couple days to being able to walk with the aid of a cane. Yeah. Now, if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. The other part to the miracle is that I healed. The back of my pelvis, front of my pelvis healed. My arm, I've got some issues with my arm, but the bone healed. It was in like a bazillion little tiny pieces because it's smushed. I got one bone in there now. Now, I go back to my doctor and he looks at my x-rays and he's like, "You're amazing." I said, "No, you're amazing." And he goes, "No, we didn't do anything. You did it all." And I said to him, "I didn't do it all. I did it with God. And I did it with God. I let go, and I let God. And here I am." Now, I'd like again to say that everything was hunky-dory, but it's life. And I'm here in this physical body. So I'm still doing therapy on my arm. And because it was in a sling at a 90-degree angle for about 3 months, maybe a little bit longer than that, this is as far as I can bend. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I just can't do this. And because God loves to send me ideas and people in my life who can help me learn things and do things, I have an awesome physical therapist. And I have all these exercises that I'm supposed to do. And I'd love to say that I've been able to let go and let God handle this. I'm in resistance to my physical therapy. And I know that. And I, there are many reasons why, but one of the reasons is it hurts. And the other reason is I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. That's what my PT says, because if I don't, it's just the way it is. And I'm like, I don't want to. It hurts. I have other things to do. You know, I want to read, I want to meditate, I want to do stuff on my computer, I don't have time for this. So, you know, I sit back and I go, okay, what's going on here? Because I'm very good at not dealing with stuff. But somehow or other it all gets to the point where God says to me, you know, you've been stuck in this too long, you've got to sit down and look at it. So I do, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? The bottom line, I'm afraid of failure. Now, I've tried and failed in life many times. I'm afraid of failure. Wow, no way. I'm perfect, whole, and complete, just as I am. What am I afraid of? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be limited. How do I go back to limited? I'm not limited. There's no way I can be limited. I'm perfect, whole, and complete. What is this all about? And I honestly think, as I looked at it, it's because I can see it. I couldn't see the pelvis. I couldn't really see the legs, it just was. But I could see the arm. It's a physical reminder that this is all I can do. And so I have to get over and out of those physical appearances and get back to where I was when I was in rehab. That one mind, that one spirit, that one thought. God is right here, right where I am. And I have to get back there. I mean, I'm a practitioner after all. I know this stuff. I know if it's up to be, if it's to be, it's up to me, and all of those other little phrases. I know how to do this. I did it. I know how to do this. So I have to think about, how do I get out of this? How do I kick myself myself in the rear, as I like to say, and get on with it. And I think for me, the first step is I have to recognize and acknowledge, because I have these little voices in my head. And I have to recognize and acknowledge those little voices, because those little voices are telling me, they're telling me that I don't want to. I don't want to spend all the time doing exercises. I don't want to have trouble getting sandwiches to my mouth. I don't want to have trouble putting my earrings on. I'm so full, I don't want to do this. I don't want. And full of wanting it to be different, then I keep getting all those things I don't want, because I don't want to. So I have, and then I go to the point where I'm a practitioner. I know better. I shouldn't be having those thoughts. So here goes the judgment, and it goes on and on and on. So what I have to do is get back to that place where I know that I am one with God, and there is only one, and that with God all things are possible. And how do I do that? Well, I think the first thing I have to do is acknowledge it. Okay, I'm afraid. I don't want to be limited. I'm afraid that it won't. I'm afraid that it won't work. What if I do all this stuff and put all this effort in? And I think I just have to understand that that's what's happening with me. So if I acknowledge the fear and remember who I am, and I go back to, I know and accept that there's just one mind. That mind is God's mind, and that mind is my mind now. I know it. And not only do I know it, I feel it, I believe it. And with that feeling comes that power that lies, having the faith of God. Not the faith in God, but the faith of God. I know with the mind of God that all things are possible, because that mind is my mind. I know it, I feel it, I believe it. As Ernest Holmes says, and I really like this quote, the mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for our old thought patterns cling to us with great tenacity, but being thought patterns, they can be reversed. If you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith. For faith always overcomes fear. And he defines faith as a mental attitude that is so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. There's no contradiction. You have no negative thoughts. It just is. Like when I was in rehab, it just was. I knew without a shadow of doubt that I was going to be okay. I have to know that about my arm. I know that this arm is going to be fully functioning. I know, because I do know that there's only God, and there is nothing else. So, starting today, because here I am, I'm going to start by changing my own thought patterns. Instead of wanting things to be different, I accept them as they are. And love myself. There's that. Love myself just the way I am. Knowing that it's this moment in time, right here, right now, I am exactly as I am supposed to be. That doesn't mean that I can't change and grow and become a yet better version of myself. But I can change my thinking from that of not wanting or wanting to that of having gratitude for all that I have, all that I can do. I can give thanks for that physical therapist that's beating me up and hurt me and her chocolate girl. I can give thanks for that pain because it reminds me that I'm getting better. I can realize once again that I am perfect, whole, and complete just as I am. I do have room for growth and expansion. We all have room for growth and expansion. I look forward to that room. I look forward to that growth and expansion. But most of all, I can give it up to God. I can let go. I can let God direct me on that path that helps me become all that I am. And I can live in faith, that faith of God, knowing, feeling, and believing that it is all good and it is all God. I can accept. I can let go. I can just let it be. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make anything happen. I don't have to figure it out. How many of us go through life trying to figure things out? Oh, good, it's not just me. Yeah, I don't have to figure it out. I think with the mind of God. He already knows. If I just sit back and listen to that still small voice, He'll show me what to do. Doesn't mean I just sit there and things happen to me, but He will show me the way. Because it's all right here. So, today, in this next song, you're going to hear the words of Olivia Newton-John. And she was inspired to write this song by Deepak Chopra and Carolyn Mist. And it's a song about finding strength to surrender. She had breast cancer in 1992, and her cancer returned in 2017 and again in 2020. But she sees it as her life's journey to share with everyone. And she says it gave her purpose and intention, and her taught a lot about compassion. And in this song, there's also a chant that I didn't write the words down to, but there's a story behind that chant. And if you want to go online and look up Let God, Let Go, Let God by Olivia Newton-John, it's a very interesting story about how she came to write it. But part of the song is, it starts out where there's a verse that says, let the signs remind you to surrender, to let go, and let God. So, can you do that? What if today you let go, let God? Because I'm living proof that with God, all things are possible. Love yourself. Thank you.